This is one of those moments where you feel like you have to be present. It's this big UN climate summit. World leaders are coming together, CEOs of major corporations, and executive directors of major organizations. Everyone's in New York City to talk about climate change. And we have to be here to react to that. And I think the most important thing that we can be doing, and the reason why we're here, is so that we can push. That we can push people to organizations to do more, leaders to do more, leaders to say more, corporations to actually say something that's truly meaningful, and we can call them out and provide our reaction. That's truly the most important thing we can be doing. So it looks like the president. So let's cut and then, yeah.
Thank you so much. We can come back.
Yeah.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary General, fellow leaders. The climate is changing faster than our efforts to address it. The alarm bells keep ringing. Our citizens keep marching. We cannot pretend we do not hear them. We have to answer the call. A hurricane left parts of this great city dark and underwater. And some nations already live with far worse.
It's on Skype.
Oh.
Worldwide, this summer was the hottest ever recorded, with global carbon emissions still on the rise. Just a few minutes ago, I met with Chinese Vice Premier Zhang Guoli and reiterated my belief that as the two largest economies and emitters in the world, we have a special responsibility to lead. That's what big nations have to do. Thank you.
Shoot. I don't know, man. I'm actually, he didn't reaffirm commitment to make a pledge to the Green Climate Fund. He just said that we're working to make the Green Climate Fund a reality. He didn't say anything about the level of ambition of the target. He said that
2 degrees Celsius, you mean?
Yeah, he didn't say a long-term ambition to reach, the threshold of 2 degrees Celsius. He didn't reaffirm that. He spoke in absolute generalities. I mean, he talked about the U.S. putting an emission reduction target on the table and governments following through and putting their own emission reduction targets on the table. What's critical is that we emphasize that these bottom-up commitments collectively have to add up to something. Is it too technical to say to capitalize the Green Climate Fund?
Yeah, I think that's too technical.
All right, fine.
They
All
did
right.
say we didn't expect them to put money on the table here. They did say they were going to help get it up and running. So it's kind of semantic argument.
Okay. The reporters are filing their stories immediately after the president speaks. It's based on a media cycle. And we need to be out there to get the press hits. And the press hits matter because it builds our name recognition and it brings more attention to the issues we work on and to us as an organization. And those things matter in the nonprofit world and in many worlds.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have now the great honor to give the floor to His Excellency Zhang Gaoli, Vice Premier of People's Republic of China.
We need to stick to the UNFCCC framework, uphold the principles of common but differentiated responsibilities, equity, and respective capabilities. We need to meet our respective commitments. In particular, developed countries need to truly intensify emission reduction and fulfill their obligations of providing financial support and technology transfer to developing countries. Thank you.
That depressed the hell out of me.
It's not surprising.
I thank His Excellency, the Vice Premier of China.
I mean, talk
for
about
his
depressing.
statement and commitment.
Oh, I'm actually more frustrated right now than I was before because it's the same old, same old. What you basically heard is the U.S. stepping up and saying we're ready to step up to the plate with the big nations of the world, with hand in hand with China being the two largest emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. And then you had the vice premier of China come up And he resorted to what China does in positioning themselves around the principles of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change around equity, which are called common but differentiated responsibilities. And what it essentially means is that they shouldn't have to move before or even with developed countries like the US who hold historic responsibility for this problem. I feel like it's just a dead end because there's no way around it. When one party is claiming that we need to uphold that principle and the other party is claiming we've moved on, there's actually not a lot of negotiating room there. And so that continues to be the public stances of these two nations. And hopefully behind closed doors, things are things are moving along at a better pace than what feels like is happening publicly. Because publicly it just feels like, forget it, we're stuck. And that's why the Copenhagen Accord broke down. That's why we were supposed to reach a global new legally binding agreement in Copenhagen, and it absolutely broke down. And it broke down mainly because of this issue. And 5 years later, it's still the predominant frame. So it's frustrating. Hi, this is Heather.
These discussions are extremely positive.
Hey, how you doing, Ned? I'm doing pretty well.